Imagine a planet so peaceful that nobody had experienced insanity for 10 million years. No depression, no rage, no violence, no murder. Then one child was born, and by the time he was finished, his entire species was extinct. Not because of war, not because of a cosmic disaster, because he personally wiped them out. This is the story of Lobo, the most insane bounty hunter in DC history, the man even death itself refuses to keep, and somehow one of Stan Lee's favorite DC characters. Before we talk about his insane powers, immortality, and why Jason Momoa might be the perfect live-action Lobo, we need to start at the beginning, because Lobo's origin is somehow even crazier than his reputation. Long before Superman became Earth's protector, there was a world called Czarnia, and unlike Krypton, Apocalypse, or Oa, Czarnia was peaceful, almost unnaturally peaceful. The people of Czarnia had evolved into a civilization without conflict, no wars, no crime, no mental illness. For 10 million years, nobody on the planet had gone insane. Think about that, an entire civilization without a single psychopath. Then Lobo arrived. Nobody remembers his parents, nobody cares, because from the moment he was born, everyone knew something was wrong. Legend says the nurse holding baby Lobo picked him up, and seconds later, he bit off several of her fingers. The first documented act of violence in ages, the nurse immediately suffered a psychological breakdown, meaning the first mental patient in millions of years appeared. The same day Lobo was born. That should have been a warning. Nobody listened. As Lobo grew older, he became the exact opposite of every other Czarnian. They loved harmony. He loved chaos. They dressed elegantly. He looked like a walking heavy metal album cover. Everything about him felt wrong, like the universe accidentally dropped a demon into paradise. The quieter the planet became, the more Lobo hated it. Peace irritated him, silence annoyed him, order disgusted him. Then he did something completely insane. Because apparently being crazy wasn't enough, he wanted to hear loud rock music forever, so doctors literally performed surgery on his brain. According to several stories, Lobo modified himself so his mind would constantly be filled with aggressive music and noise. The guy was basically rewiring his own brain just to avoid inner peace. And somehow, that wasn't even the craziest thing he would do. You see, Czarnian biology was special. They were nearly immortal, not completely invincible, but incredibly difficult to kill. In fact, a Czarnian could usually only be killed by another Czarnian. Even horrific injuries could be survived. Limbs could regenerate, bodies could recover. Their species was ridiculously durable, and from childhood, Lobo seemed even more resilient than most, which gave him a disturbing hobby, testing ways to kill people. While other kids played games, Lobo experimented with death. He constantly searched for new methods, new weapons, new possibilities, because deep down he was fascinated by one question: can a Czarnian actually die? The problem? Everybody around him was immortal. So his experiments became bigger and darker. There was an old prophecy on Czarnia. It warned that one day a child would be born who would bring destruction to the entire world. Many people feared the child was Lobo, and honestly, they were right. Because eventually Lobo reached a terrifying conclusion. If everyone else on Czarnia disappeared, he would become the greatest Czarnian who ever lived, the strongest, the toughest, the last one standing. So he decided to solve the problem himself. This wasn't a war, this wasn't an accident. This was genocide planned by a genius. Lobo used advanced genetic engineering to create a deadly creature, part scorpion, part insect, entirely lethal. Then he bred them by the millions and released them across Czarnia, every city, every region, every corner of the planet. The creatures were designed with one purpose: kill every Czarnian except Lobo. He even programmed safeguards into the creatures so they wouldn't target his own DNA. Overnight, the population collapsed. Billions died, families vanished, civilization ended, an entire species was erased, and Lobo watched it happen. By sunrise, he was alone. The final surviving Czarnian, DC's version of the last son of Krypton. Except Superman desperately tried to save his people. Lobo murdered his. And he wasn't done, because what if another Czarnian somehow survived? What if somebody escaped? What if another one was born later? Lobo wasn't taking chances, so he destroyed the planet itself. He shattered Czarnia's future. its legacy, its history, its possibility of recovery. He made sure nothing would ever come back, not the people, not the civilization, not even the world. And with that, Lobo became the last Czarnian in existence. Most people would have felt guilt, regret, maybe loneliness. Not Lobo. He gave himself an A+ for the entire operation. Seriously, he literally graded himself. Then built something new, a machine that would define his future. His legendary space bike, the Space Hog, a vehicle capable of traveling at incredible speeds across the cosmos with nowhere left to call home. Lobo hit the stars, and that's where his real story begins. A bounty hunter, a mercenary, a walking disaster moving from planet to planet, taking contracts, collecting paychecks, and leaving destruction everywhere he went. But here's the weirdest part. The reason he became a mercenary wasn't survival. Lobo doesn't really need much. He can survive things that would kill almost anyone. The real reason? His pets. Because somehow the most violent being in the galaxy absolutely loves his space dolphins, and feeding them costs money. So yes, one of the deadliest killers in DC history became a bounty hunter to buy food for his pets. As Lobo traveled from planet to planet, he built a reputation that terrified entire star systems. Not because he was the strongest, not because he was the smartest, because if Lobo accepted a contract, it got done. No excuses, no second chances, no negotiations. You could hire him to capture someone. You could hire him to eliminate someone. You could hire him for almost anything. And once he shook your hand and accepted payment, the deal was sacred. That's what made him different from most mercenaries. Lobo is insane, but he's honest. If somebody later offered him double the money to betray you, he wouldn't take it. Once a contract is accepted, Lobo follows it to the end. That's why many people across the DC universe consider him one of the most dependable mercenaries ever. If you wanted a job done, you called the main man. One of Lobo's most famous rivalries is Superman, and honestly, it started because Lobo's an idiot. At one point, after making a drunken bet, Lobo claimed he could kill Superman. Now most people would have forgotten about it. Not Lobo. His ego wouldn't allow it, so he kept trying to prove himself again and again and again. This led to countless battles between the last son of Krypton and the last Czarnian. Can Lobo actually kill Superman? Not really, at least not consistently, but the fact that he keeps trying tells you everything you need to know about his personality. The guy sees an impossible challenge and immediately says, yeah, I can beat that. Eventually, someone actually managed to kill Lobo, at least temporarily, using advanced technology. His body died, his soul left, and naturally, he went straight to hell. Nobody expected redemption, not after everything he'd done. The demons thought they were about to punish one of the worst beings in existence. They tortured him, burned him, beat him, dragged him through endless suffering. The problem? Lobo enjoyed it. Remember, this is the guy who spent his entire life embracing chaos and pain. Hell wasn't punishment, it was entertainment. And the more they tortured him, the more fun he had. Soon the demons realized they weren't torturing Lobo. Lobo was torturing them. Hell literally became a worse place because he was there. Eventually they had enough and kicked him out. Think about that. Hell rejected Lobo. So where did he go next? Heaven, which somehow turned out even worse. Because heaven is peaceful, calm, quiet, everything Lobo hates. The angels tried to tolerate him. That lasted about 5 minutes. Soon he was causing chaos, picking fights, demanding noise, and driving everyone insane. Eventually, heaven reached the same conclusion as hell. Get him out now. So both heaven and hell permanently banned him. And that's when something insane happened. Lobo became effectively immortal, not regular comic book immortal, true immortal. If his body is destroyed, his soul can't stay in heaven. It can't stay in hell. It literally has nowhere to go. So it simply waits until his body regenerates. Then the soul jumps back in and Lobo returns again and again and again. Death itself doesn't know what to do with him anymore. Now let's talk about why Lobo is one of DC's most dangerous beings. Because despite acting like a maniac, he's unbelievably powerful. First, immortality. Destroy him, blow him apart, rip him to pieces. He comes back. Some versions even showed him regenerating from tiny fragments of himself. That's how absurd his healing factor can be. Most people look at Lobo and assume he's dumb. Huge mistake. The same guy who exterminated an entire species through genetic engineering is a scientific genius. He personally created the creatures that wiped out Czarnia. He builds advanced technology. He modifies weapons. He designed his own interstellar bike. and many stories suggest he's far smarter than people realize. The crazy act sometimes hides a dangerous mind. Lobo has spent centuries fighting hunters, aliens, superheroes, monsters, gods. He's mastered numerous combat styles and developed his own unpredictable fighting methods. That's part of what makes him dangerous. You can't always predict what he's about to do. Sometimes even Lobo doesn't know what he's about to do. Being a galactic bounty hunter has advantages. Over the years, Lobo has traveled across countless worlds. As a result, he's learned more than 17,000 languages. Think about that. While most heroes struggle with one alien dialect, Lobo can probably insult you in thousands. One of his most underrated abilities is sheer willpower. Some comics have implied his determination is so extreme that even Green Lantern constructs have struggled against him. His refusal to quit is almost supernatural. The universe tells him no. Lobo responds with, "Watch me." At one point, Lobo even received a red lantern ring. Most characters would immediately use it, not Lobo. He basically treated it like jewelry, a cosmic weapon capable of incredible destruction, and he's wearing it like an accessory. Only Lobo could do that. This is where things get complicated because Lobo's strength changes depending on the story. Some comics show him trading blows with Superman, others show Superman beating him without much trouble. So his power level isn't always consistent, but one thing remains true. Lobo is far stronger than almost any normal human or street-level hero, and when he goes all out, he's terrifying. Another ridiculous ability, stamina. Lobo practically never gets tired. Many stories portray him as someone who can keep fighting almost indefinitely. No exhaustion, no burnout, no quitting, just endless aggression. Older comics introduced one of Lobo's weirdest powers. A single drop of his blood could potentially create another Lobo. With the same powers, the same personality, the same chaos. Imagine an army of Lobos. Yeah. DC wisely moved away from that idea later. Depending on the comic, Lobo has survived absurd environments. Extreme cold, extreme heat, deep space, massive explosions. His durability varies from writer to writer, but he's consistently one of the hardest characters in DC to put down. Then DC tried something fans absolutely hated. The New 52 introduced a younger version of Lobo and suggested the classic Lobo might be an imposter. The idea was that another real Lobo existed. Fans weren't having it. The backlash was brutal. Eventually, DC stepped away from the concept and treated it more like an alternate interpretation. For many fans, there's only one true Lobo, and it's the original main man. The name itself is fitting. In Spanish, Lobo means wolf, and honestly, that perfectly describes him: a lone predator, a wandering survivor, the last member of his pack, the last Czarnian, forever alone, forever dangerous, forever moving forward. Many fans compare Lobo to a combination of Wolverine and Deadpool, and it's easy to see why. He's violent, unpredictable, darkly funny, occasionally breaks the fourth wall, and somehow turns complete insanity into entertainment. Originally, he was created partly as a parody character, but readers loved him so much that he evolved into one of DC's biggest cult icons. Technically, not many. You can't permanently kill him, you can't scare him, you can't intimidate him, but his personality creates problems. His ego is enormous, his arrogance constantly gets him into fights, and whenever someone challenges him, he almost always takes the bait. That's why smarter opponents can sometimes manipulate him, not because they're stronger, because they know exactly which buttons to push. And now with Jason Momoa officially stepping into the role, DC might finally be bringing the main man into the spotlight. A violent space biker, an immortal mercenary, a walking disaster, a man rejected by heaven, hell, and common sense itself. If DC gets him right, Lobo could become one of the most unforgettable characters in the entire DC universe. Here's the craziest thing about Lobo. He's not a hero, he's not really a villain, he's a force of nature, a cosmic accident that somehow keeps surviving everything the universe throws at him. But what do you think? Can Jason Momoa become the definitive live-action Lobo? And if Lobo ever fought Superman with no limits, who would actually win? Drop your answer in the comments, because trust me, this debate isn't ending anytime soon.